This is going to be fun. I will be comparing Claude 3.5 Sonnet to OpenAI o1 as part of our journey in the series that I'm creating for platform development. So I've used the old 3.5 Sonnet to create an API, create the GitHub Actions pipeline, create Terraform scripts to create Google Cloud artifact registry and cloud identity federation and cloud runs. And then the GitHub Actions pipeline will deploy to Google Cloud Run. And the thing that I wanted to do after that was to onboard that API into Apigee API gateway in Google so we can start protecting it. Okay, so that was a task. So in the summer, I started researching how to onboard a cloud run into Apigee, and it was not trivial. It is not easy, and my friends at Google, hello, we need to make that a little bit easier. But the funny part is, Sonnet in the summer failed to do it. It could not do it. Cloud 3.5. And then I talked to my friends and the team that I work with, and they said, "Yep, this is not easy." So we all knew that. Um, and then new Sonnet came out, new OpenAI came out, and I want to try them. And then I remembered something. I remembered something really interesting. Um, I remembered in my engineering days, we had this professor whose methodology of testing was very weird. He would create tests that he would guarantee that no one will finish and that they cannot be fully, completely solved. And he would explain it to us by saying, if I create a test that in the normal distribution where I will have 3 or 4 students who will get A plus or the full mark, he would say, how would I differentiate between these 4? He felt it is unfair for the 4 to get the same equal grade because in his mind, some of them are better than the others. So he created the test so hard, sort of like creating his own fat tail on the normal distribution and stretching the normal distribution, creating a longer tail than it should be in order for him to really spread the sample. Sorry, not fat tail, longer tail. Like he wanted to create a really long tail on that normal distribution. And while we absolutely hated that guy, it was a national sport in my university to hate the test and to hate that professor. I think we all secretly admired him. And I remembered him while I was doing that comparison because I felt, what could be a better way to test these 2 models rather than to give them a task that I know in advance has no solution? And then that will give me an idea of how far they will both go. And the results are really interesting. Okay, so let me really show you. I'm going to hide the browser now, and I'm going to show you where we were. So in the summer, in the older Claude's 3.5 Sonnet, like I said, I asked it to create a shell script. As you can see on my screen, I said, just create a shell script using gcloud to create an Apigee proxy connection to a Cloud Run service. Just show me what that looks like. And it did. It did create a script and created the shell script. But the funny part is that it uses this command gcloud apigee apis create, and it passes the service name and it passed it really good parameters. And while this looks really logical, the sad thing is that that command just does not exist. It completely hallucinated a command, or maybe it's a message to Google like, "Hey Google, that's how it should be." So okay, so I'm gonna pause now. So I knew it hallucinated the command. I knew this has no solution. So now I'm going to use the 2 models, the new Claude Sonnet and O1 to see what can they do, how far they can go, knowing fair well that this is not a trivial task and probably not solvable by just looking over the internet. Or maybe one of them will surprise me. I have no idea. So so the good thing is we have a proxy enabled to us by our amazing Fuel IX team at work in TELUS, and I can use a proxy to access any model I want. And that is good because I didn't have direct access to O1 Preview, to be honest, but we do as an organization. So I configured two environment files for Aider. One of them, as you can see here, with Claude Sonnet, the new one from October 22nd. And the second one is for O1 preview. So I'm going to go to my command line. I'm going to pass on, this is Claude Sonnet, the new one, the same exact prompt. And let's see what will happen. And you can see the script being generated. And it's interesting. I see something new now I haven't seen before. There's a lot of XML. Okay. But what did it do at the end? Okay, scroll. So let's go and take a look. Don't run the shell script. Let's go and just take a look. Oh, okay. So I am looking now at the script, and there is XML connection, XML proxy. There is some way it is trying to create XML files that describe the proxy, which is really interesting. The older Sonnet didn't do that. But then in the end, it was still trying to use, if I can just roll back, it is still trying to use this weird, not weird, I mean, obviously logical, G-Cloud API create. And it is passing it the zip file it created from these XML files. I think it's very close. It is definitely a step further ahead because from the RPG documentation, you can see here, this is sort of how you should do it. It found more information, but it is still trying to run that crazy command. Really. Okay, so still hallucinating at the end, but closer to reality, much closer than the older. I'm showing you now the older version that I have. Definitely a step up. There is definitely an improvement, but still no cigar. Okay, so I'm going to remove all my Aider chat history, and I'm going to remove. I'm going to go to a new to a new to a new branch, and then I'm going to use, like you said here, I'm going to pause my the play, and you can see on the command line, I said, okay, remove the branch, and then delete the file. I deleted the file from the branch because I did not want Aider to see any previous history. And then I am using now the environment file that has O1 preview. So it's now using O1, and you can see it is using O1 preview as the main model. And I said, go ahead, let's do that. Let's create the shell script, same prompt. What it did was, it's like, oh, there's a file deleted. Are you okay? Do you want me? And I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. Just continue going. And I wanted to see how long does it take. It was taking a little bit. So I just put the date there. It was like 5-10 seconds later, I put the date. And let's take a look at what created. It took longer than Sonnet. Here's the funny thing. If you look at what it is trying to do, it has two commands now that you can see here. It is still G-Cloud APIs create. Like, interestingly enough, the intelligence of the world, the intelligence of the internet is telling Google to implement something. The universe is telling Google to do that. But the weird thing is, it added another command that is also hallucinated. There is a G-Cloud APG deployments deploy. So there is a create and then deploy, and they just both don't exist. The two scripts hallucinated their own commands. Because that task is really not solvable. So going back into that fat tail, can I differentiate between the two? So I can tell you, 3.5 older Sonnet attempted to use a command that doesn't exist, and it passed parameters in what seems to be like a good logical yet fictional order. Claude 3.5 Sonnet, the new one, went one step ahead. It went and it created that XML configuration, which seems to be like a step in the right direction, but it sadly ended up with the same beautifully hallucinated command line interface. OpenAI O1 preview performance was almost identical to the older 3.5 Sonnet with a few differences. The first one is the O1 if you can see it here, it's taking the parameters and it is trying to use them. But Sonnet was a lot better. Sonnet tried to verify the parameters exist before, and it will check if they don't, if it doesn't have three parameters, and it will give you an error message. So it had a little bit of checks. The validation could be better, to be honest. It could check for project ID. Like it didn't do the full check, but at least it put an entry level like validation. So definitely Sonnet was better. Um, Also, if you look at the O1, uh, it it was very interesting because it tried to well, there was a little bit, yes, back and forth, but what was really striking to me was it was trying to enable Apigee APIs on the project, which is something you don't do when you add an endpoint. When you add an endpoint, this is something that you can, a project will have multiple endpoints, but you enable the Apigee APIs on the project at the higher level, maybe when you're creating the project using Terraform or something. So it confused the project level functionality with a Cloud Function level task. Okay, so finally, so yeah, 3.5 Sonnet is still the king. Actually, the old one was the king, and it performed slightly better than O1. And the new Cloud Sonnet is definitely a stronger model than the old one. So um, there's a lot of catching up to do for other models. Thank you. So I hope that was helpful. That's my observation. Everybody says Claude 3.5 Sonnet is the best model for software development. And it seems from this experiment using my crazy engineering professor methodology of testing the A students, Cloud 3.5 Sonnet is still the king. It is a more A student than O1. Thanks, and see you next time.